originally back like 4 years ago when I tried to do HTG and I bought your book.
Okay.
And the book was great. I was not.
Yeah.
I was not. But I've been going through some major crap for years.
Okay. How old are you? How old are you?
47.
Okay. So
18 years, 17 years. I've been married to an alcoholic.
Was he that way in the beginning?
From what I've found out, as I do my detective work, I met him in this phase when he was trying to, in air quotes, be good. And he wasn't drinking, and he was holding down a great job and all this other stuff. And we met, and he's like, oh, you're just such a breath of fresh air, and you're exactly what I need in my life to stay focused. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I quickly found out what it meant. And, and I there's no way, like, one person can be the thing, the missing piece for someone else. So, of course.
Like you're his yeah, that's like codependency, drama triangle stuff. Like you're his rescuer. Give him a sense of safety. It's like you're replacing his mother type of shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then it got really interesting because we actually ended up, after we had kids, we ended up moving into his parents' brownstone in Brooklyn. And then all of a sudden, it's just always been very crazy. And it's a very intense thing. And I started, my mom had me when she was 17. And so we were very, I feel like I helped raise her as much as she helped raise me. And she was very much into like health and fitness and, in the late 80s, she'd be like going to like exercise classes and
she was
together.
And that makes sense, based on, being young and feeling like you gotta prove yourself, getting pregnant and having a baby as a teenager, especially in the, kind of the age of the 80s where bullying and narcissism was at its like heyday, right? Your mom had to somehow cope, and try to control something in her life. And it would make sense that body image would be her go-to. Right.
Yeah, well, and it also made a difference that her mother had died when she was 14.
Her mom died?
So, yeah, her mom died of breast cancer.
Okay, so she's dealing with trauma.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, pain and anguish and resentment probably, and she just...
And there's a lot of, I think, family, like, lineage issues here because, and I'm a firm believer in the fact that, like, the DNA gets imprinted with some of this really highly emotional shit.
Well, you pass it down through your coping mechanisms. You're not passing it down. It changes. When for example, when your mother's pregnant, she has these neurochemistry, or she's got her stress hormones going. So you're just raised in stress. That doesn't mean you can't completely change it now, instantly.
Yeah.
So be careful that you don't define yourself as permanently damaged because some DNA. Don't do that to yourself because you'll never recover with that type of viewpoint.
I don't do that, but I just like to be aware of like what the soup is that like I was boiled in.
Well, and that it really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the history. Yeah, the history of what your parents were dealing with and how they, keep in mind how they, without any help, because your mother's generation and her mother's generation, that you don't talk about anything. Everything is secretive, because you have to be superior in this narcissistic culture of perfectness. And so if you're a normal human being with normal, trials, tribulations, and issues, you're not allowed to talk about it because people will think you're inferior, So it's, that's what gets passed down is that attitude. So keep in mind, it's generation based. So it's not specific to your mother or her grandma or your dad. It's like they're a reflection of that narcissistic culture because fitting into it, And so are you with your kids. You represent the narcissism in the culture you were raised in and the way that it was coped with. And you're making improvements. Just like your mom did a better job than her mom, who did a better job than her mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's very interesting. Because even like as a teenager, like my mom and my dad never told me I was pretty or I was good or anything like that. And I've made a point to make sure, like, I'll sometimes, be in the bathroom brushing my teeth with my daughter, and I'll just look at her and be like, "You are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen."
Yeah, and so you're defining her by her body image. So you're the one fucking her up, not your grandparents.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I mean, you're literally saying your looks is all that matter, and that's why I love you.
Oh, but I also talked to her about how amazing she is. I mean, she knows how to deal with people in ways that I never understood.
Well, yeah, and some of that is just, yeah. Yeah, so
talk about that too, but
yeah, but see, you're projecting your body image shit onto her as if it's supposed to make her feel better. You know what I'm saying? So just think about this for a second. Body image was really important to you. And so because your parents didn't emphasize body and looks, you're emphasizing it for your child as if she's needy that way. She needs me to tell her she's pretty and beautiful and attractive. Because that's what you needed, right? Because that's what you wanted. So you're literally projecting onto her what you want. Like she has the same insecurities and body image and narcissism around it.
Yeah, but
so that's how it gets passed down. Just so you know, that's how this gets passed down. Yeah, you're projecting yourself onto your child as if she's you and has your insecurities and weaknesses. And that's how you pass it down.
But isn't it important to show
I'm having
that, love them and
well, you're projecting again your belief around what love's about, which is based on your looks. So that's really important. Yeah, so you're projecting your insecurity, your sense of inadequacy, your desire for your parents to actually support that. So your codependent needs for your parents to think you're lovable based on looks. They did a good job. They did not want you defined by that shit. I don't say that to my kids either. You're so beautiful. You have I would never do that to my child. Make sense? I'm not judging you, but you need to take a step back and look at the forest for the trees. Yeah, you never probably would have questioned you. You question everybody else, but you.
Oh no, are you kidding me? I question myself constantly. I was born to believe I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was embedded with constant.
Are you resentful?
A little.
Yeah, so that means you're blaming others. You're not taking responsibility. So that's what I meant. I can feel it and hear it, and I can hear it. There's a lot of resent going on. A lot of resent towards your husband.
Oh, yeah.
So that means you are a victim. Poor me, right? I'm a victim because of this situation. So let's go into that for a little bit. That was something I got very clear in your request form that you sent to me. Keep in mind, I'm not judging you. I'm just going, oh, here are the issues she's not seeing.
Okay.
Right? That's what you paid me for, by the way.
I know.
Okay. So do you want to... Okay, so do you want to get better, or do you want someone to enable your thoughts?
I want to get better. I want to get rid of this shit, and the only way to do it is to look at it.
Yes, and to stop thinking that someone else has to fix it or change for you to feel better about it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really important because I could sense you are really blaming your husband for your issues with your weight. I know that you're not directly saying that or consciously saying that, but I can tell unconsciously he's to blame. You're not blaming your narcissism and your elitist idea of thin supremacy. Don't blame that. right? The other thing underneath that is, but prior to your husband, I guarantee you established a sense of superiority or that specialness, or I have a gift, and you were given it, with you're a model, so you're given feedback that you're so special, right? That's your gift, right, to humanness, is people can look at you and whatever with it, right? I'm just kind of making blatant statements, so stop me if you need to. But your resentment is based on the fact that you got off on yourself when you were in your thinner health righteousness. You took pride in it, great joy and pride, right, in the body concept, that because it's too hard to manage when you're dealing with kind of drama, chaos, codependency. I mean, that makes it really hard, right, to maintain this kind of self-image. Would you agree that's understandable? Someone who has this elitist kind of self-image that's a high maintenance job. So when you have a real person in your life who needs your help or is struggling, can you see why you would resent that person? Because they're kind of infringing on the space of your narcissistic thin supremacy needs, right? Especially if it provides you income. Are you tracking with me?
Yeah.
So can you see why you would have strain, underlying resentment, anger? I would not be surprised if you have bursts of anger, just feeling out of control.
In a way, in a sense,
yeah. Yeah, and it's not all the time. It's in certain environments, certain situations. That's you were like, I'm out of fucking control, and you might be eating at those times.
Yeah.
How's that feel when you're in that space?
Awful.
Yeah,
if I literally could die, it would be better.
Right. Okay, so that's important for you to keep in mind, that it's almost, and it's rage induced. Would you agree? There's an inner rage. Do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000,000%.
That's coming from your resentment. Thinking that someone else is responsible for your misery. That's what that is. I know this is not conscious for you. It's not. In fact, when you're in that space, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You're just kind of a slave to these emotions. It's like the way I would describe it, and the way it felt for me when I was in it, like you're in a raging river and you have no power, but it is a raging, and you're going where it's taking you, and it's pissing you off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That comes from your resentment. And so the resentment that you have, you think is coming from, your mom or your husband, or I don't know. You can say it's a variety of sources that you resent, that gives you this sense of in your way type of thinking. In my way. Taking something from me. It's that powerless victim feeling, right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
yeah, so what you're not, so you can see that part of it, right? That's now you're like, yes, that is exactly right. Am I right or wrong? Because I could be wrong.
No, that's completely right.
Okay. So for you, what's conscious is the fact that you're blaming your husband, that he's fucked up and you have to fix this, and that's in your way.
Oh, well, that I've given up on.
No, you haven't. You still have resentment.
Yeah, that's where, the attempts at doing Al-Anon came in. But, yeah, the resentment has even stopped that, because it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't be it. It's me. You're choosing them.
I can hardly hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Well, it just sounds like you're talking through a computer. And I know your phone is a computer, literally, but it sounds like super electronic, like your voice is like, an electronic. If you can't change it, don't worry about it. I'll work with it. But I don't know if I don't know if you're on Bluetooth.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm saying is that, I tried dealing with this thing through through Al-Anon, and I couldn't deal with Al-Anon because I just cannot wrap my head around the fact that this is a disease for an alcoholic.
I so get that. I get what you're saying. I do. The reason why it's called the disease model is because the goal in even promoting this concept was they thought that it would help people stop shaming and judging, right? Because shame, judgment, disapproval is a big reason why people abuse substance. You can understand this, right? Because you have your own way to abuse yourself. It might not be substance abuse, right? But it's the same exact feeling. I mean, imagine you've done something so gravely horrible and you are afraid to face it and look at it. And the only way for you to survive is to distract yourself. You know, like exercising.
Yeah, no, it sounds like exactly, I mean, the way you framed it sounds exactly like what I'm doing.
Yeah, but he's worthy of shit and judgment, and you're not. Because you're extra special, narcissistic, all into yourself, better than him, right? Those are unconscious feelings. You might not consciously feel like you're superior to your husband, but you do, because you're not seeing yourself in his struggle. So there's no compassion. So the point of the disease model was try to help people have some compassion, but really it ends up just stigmatizing the person as flawed and have horrible genetics, right? If they do now. There's been kind of, now that they have trial and error, that they didn't, how they thought it would work out by making this a disease isn't really working. So it's part of the, insurance companies and the business of rehab. It's a business of rehab, even though AA isn't a business. They don't take money. They can donate, but they're not capitalizing on, mental illness. But it's like a program that they're trying to use that might help. And of course it's not working. Although the 12 steps is the best recovery rate. I love 12 steps, but the disease model, I get why why it would bother you, but you've got to be able to see that the brain does get conditioned. It does get conditioned based on the underlying issues. The response to those issues is to try to run away, hide, right? So you're going to have to recontextualize, if you can, how you can get support. Anyways, but you might not be in a place where you're open to it yet. I wouldn't judge yourself. But back to what we were talking about. We kind of digressed. Your resentment.
Yeah.
You're not questioning your personal addiction, if you want to call it that he's infringing on. If you want to call it like, what gives you happiness? What gives you a sense of euphoria? What is that? If you were to say, what in your life gives you this personal, self-centered sense of euphoria and happiness and control? What is it? What would make everything all right?
Creating every single day. I just love when I'm creating with my group, with my team.
Okay, so great. So what are the conditions that are holding you back?
Well, money has been one thing, but I'm making more and getting more investors, so that's becoming less of an issue. And I have, however, then looked at myself because I'm in these projects and said, "You're too fat."
Okay, so that's what I was waiting for.
You're too fat.
Yeah. So basically, being thinner would bring you euphoria in a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
You never thought that was the actual issue. That is the issue, not your husband. He's a separate human being. He has personal suffering that he's dealing with. Your suffering comes from your thin. If you didn't have to be thin, let's just say thinness is irrelevant. Because to be honest with you, if you're really good at what you're doing, thinness is really irrelevant. If you want to find someone who's thinner, then you're going to find someone with mental illness. that is probably not as good. You know, look at the forest for the trees. When you magnify some stupid detail like emaciation or thinness, that's because you're insecure with yourself. You don't think you're good enough. You're focusing more on the body image than you are skill set. So what does that tell us about your actual, like, the joy you get out of your skill set? You get more joy out of the thinness and attractiveness than you do the skill set.
Initially, yes, but then when I'm on set and in it, I don't even think about it for a second.
Even if you're fatter?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's why it's also, but I believe it's also a place to, like, fully, I mean, I fully go in, engage, and play pretend. And in playing pretend, I am in this other world where my shitty little stupid life doesn't count.
Yeah, that's called ego. That's how ego works, by the way. It's like a way to cope, and you create alternative concepts, like there's fantasies, right? And you're just doing it literally. A lot of people do it symbolically by creating goals. They don't realize these are fantasies coming out of misery. Right? So they're usually really high reaching, not realistic or within reach, but it feels like if I can do that, my life will be better, right? So you're constantly chasing this mirage that's pretty far away. But you're kind of wired to do that because you're surviving. You're in survival mode. Your brain is saying you need to find something that's going to get rid of this because you're going to die if you don't. You know?
Yeah.
So how much of... So let me ask this question. Just be honest. I don't have an answer I want you to say. I really don't care what you say. I would just want you to think about it and answer honestly so that we can kind of see where you're at. If you could never be thin again, ever, like this is it, the body you have, you might gain 25 more pounds naturally, not with no binging or overeating. It just might be your natural genetic predisposition, right? How would you feel? You'll never again be thinner than this. Ever. Permanent.
Like a fat, disgusting schlub.
Say that again. I can't hear what you're saying. Say it again.
I would feel like an absolute fat, disgusting schlub that had no self-control. That's what I would feel like.
Awesome. See how I'm glad you were honest. That's exposing your narcissism. Right? That's very narcissistic to think that someone who has body fat is a disgusting slug. Don't you agree? That's like saying someone who's has a different skin color than you is disgusting. It's like a detail of body, right? But we've symbolized it. It's symbolic to you of supremacy to be thinner, like this. I have proven my worth because I have this body with less fat. Kind of like in China when they did foot binding, and girls who had the smallest feet between 3 and 4 inches were seen as superior, goddess. Like it was symbolic that they had self-discipline, pain tolerance, even though they were, handicapped because they couldn't walk anymore. So they're dependent on people to help them because they can't walk and they're in so much pain all the time. But they were given this, you're so, you're this on this pedestal of glory because you're capable of, damaging your body so much that we see you as superior, right? You're doing the same thing by looking at bodies as tiny, fragile, emaciated glory, right? So instead of foot binding, you're body binding by food restrictions, all while food is around you. So when I ask the question, if you had to be exactly the same weight or even get bigger, that disgust is coming from narcissistic concepts. That would be like someone, if I said to China, when they did foot binding, how would you feel if your foot went back to its normal state? You're like a size 8. You're not a size 3. And they said, that is disgusting.
Wow. That's a great way to put it.
Well, that's identical to your mentality. The concept of thin supremacy is no different than small foot supremacy. And you literally believe it. So what happens, because it is a narcissism is this glorified need to be special. We all have narcissism to some degree because we all are pack animals, and the illusion is that if you're special, you will be accepted into your group and tribe. You will fit in, you will be valued, and that ultimately means you're less likely to be abandoned and rejected and disapproved of. Are you tracking with me?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Totally. I absolutely see that.
So it's not something to be ashamed of.
Play out in real life.
Yeah, so it's not because you're human.
I don't book as much work, which is the thing that makes me happy.
Yeah, but part of that could be you're not available. You're not. I mean, there's a big picture here. And why are you looking for roles that require someone who's anorexic?
I don't look for them. They're not. It's not anorexic. It's totally. I mean.
Well, if it requires that you live in permanent restrictive eating and kind of obsessive compulsive body image controls, I don't care what your weight is. It's an anorexic belief system. You have to be thinner than you are. You have to be the thinnest your body can be. Are you saying that's not anorexic?
And I have to say that there is, like, while I've gone through these phases where I'm like, you know what? There's plenty of people that, like, are 20 pounds more than what their, quote, ideal weight is or whatever.
Yeah, and they get lots of work.
I'm totally fine.
Correct.
But then, like, I was in this one workshop, and this woman who was, like, one of the heads of ABC Casting was there, and she singled me out. She said, and you, for example, if the head casting director in LA saw you, she would be like, good Lord, she's fucking fat. No, we can't have her on an ABC show. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you fucking said that.
Yeah, well, does that ABC show, are they the gods who made them king? I mean, are they really the epicenter of?
But it is like something that is like it. I mean, I'm not just making this shit up.
No, I get that. I get that. I get it. I mean, you're trying to compete for who's the most narcissistic of the planet, and let's worship you. That's what that is. I get it. I do. You're not the first person I've worked with who's in the spotlight. Literally. I have quite a few clients who are in your situation. People that work for national news, it's legit shit. I get it. But more you're secure with your talent, the less that those things matter to you. Because you're okay being rejected for not having an anorexic tendency. You'd rather have your sanity and meet roles that don't require you have mental illness.
That's really very, very profound.
Soak it in. Soak it in. Would you want your daughter to be quote unquote successful if it requires her have some anorexic tendencies and obsessive compulsiveness and low self-esteem? Yeah. So consider that you might be unaware that that's what you're teaching. Because you're modeling it. I'm worthless because, worthless to who? This fucked up system that is beyond normal narcissism, right?
Yeah.
It's really messed up. So how many people in this industry have mental illness?
Oh, probably 99.9%.
Okay, let's just soak that in for a second. And you're taking this credible? So of course you're going to in that kind of cult. Would you say this is kind of a cult? The expectations, it is a cult. Okay, so you have cult mentality. It's like brainwashing. You're trying to be accepted. If your human, basic, fundamental human needs to feel loved, to feel like you belong, to feel like you are worth something. You're using that culture to define it.
How do you undo that?
You have to stop believing it. So you have to own. It's like a reversal of ownership. right? Because right now, you're who owns you?
Who owns me?
Yeah.
Literally, I think my animals and my kids.
That's funny. No, I get that because I have 3 kids and a dog, and it's crazy. That industry does, because they literally are defining your sense of worth, personal worth. This is about you. Just you as an individual. Take your kids out of it. Take your husband out of it. Take everybody out of it. This is between you and the concepts that you're holding yourself to define your personal sense of worth. How are you grading your personal sense of worth? What conditions are you using? There are beliefs you're holding yourself to, and they're certainly not your children's beliefs. So get them out of it.
Yeah.
Make sense? I'm trying to separate this out. Let's look at what you're doing to yourself for what?
Yeah.
Who owns you right now? Who is basically like a puppet? Your entire sense of being and well-being and self-worth is coming from what?
I don't think I actually have one.
Well, you mean a real one, like authentic one.
Yeah.
I would agree.
My only sense of self-worth is how much work can I do in the house to make sure my kids stay happy, even in the midst of all the insanity.
That makes sense based on your just primitive need to hunker in your own home. I'm talking about you individually. Get your kids out of this. You inside yourself. I think those are normal, natural needs. I don't think those necessarily define your sense of value as a person. That's just what you got to do, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense of I'm special and successful because of that, or is it just this is what I have to do?
No, this is what I have to do.
Okay, that's different. What I want you to focus in on, what gives you a sense of purpose, being, I'm special, it's an interpersonal thing. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It is I'm a worthwhile human being. What is defining that right now?
Oh my God, it's too scary, but I don't know.
Well, it's your body image. That's the most obvious thing. Again, let's pretend.
Maybe that's why I feel like I don't have any.
Well, you don't. You don't have any. That's the thing. Why is that? What is defining so imagine I snap my fingers right now and you're 25 pounds thinner. Tell me what that feels like.
Oh, so free.
Okay, so that right there. So what is controlling you? What owns you?
Some fucked up loop I'm in.
Say that again.
Literally, I feel like I'm in this downward spiral and I can't fucking see.
That's okay. So don't worry about it. Just stay with me. Just stay with me.
Okay.
Something like that has that much power over you. That is a lot of power. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, so think of yourself as a puppet with strings. When you go into your self-concept, who you are, and what brings your life joy and happiness in the sense of success, what defines that? It's hinging on...
Honestly, at this point, I mean, with the body that I'm in right now, the thing that I derive my happiness from is making other people happy.
You mean you're compensating?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
So remove that. So go into what belief. There is a structure in your mind that you're using to define yourself by. Well, that's the consequence.
Taking care of everyone else.
That's the consequence. You feel like a loser. That's consequential, right? You feel like you're inadequate. It's not good enough. You have a sense of loss. You have a sense of like, right? Right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is that coming from? There is a belief that is controlling that response. Let me help you with this. If we got rid of thin concept permanently from your life, the belief that you have to be thinner is permanently removed. You never have to be thinner than this again. Complete. It's like blacking it out from existence. How would that feel?
I still feel worthless.
Okay, that means it still exists though. So that response comes from I'm still holding myself to it. Even if someone said that is abolished. There is no thin supremacy. It doesn't work. So let me rephrase it. This might help you a little bit. Imagine that you are in a third world country. Everybody is thin. Every single person is thin. How do you feel about it now? If you were thin too.
I feel bad for everyone.
Well, how would you feel about yourself knowing that you're just blending and you're not special anymore? Everybody's emaciated. Everybody's thin.
I wouldn't care.
Would you feel so, oh my God, it's so relieving. I feel so good about myself. You know, that kind of narcissistic euphoria that you experienced a little bit ago when I said, what would happen if I gave you 20? Why? Because you're not special anymore? Because it's just normal?
No, if everybody was like emaciated,
well, everybody's thin. So get to the thinness. Oh. Every single person is thin.
It wouldn't really change anything. Because I see that between when I'm in New Jersey and when I live in Manhattan. I literally see that, and I don't feel different in myself.
Well, no, because you think you should be thinner, but not every. That's actually not true because there's lots of people around you that are all sorts of different sizes. So when you think really actually take this serious and really hone in on it, if you were in a third world country and were just as thin as everybody else, you wouldn't feel special. There'd be nothing special about it. Would you get a sense of I'm in control and I'm worth something? What would happen?
No.
It would not. It would do nothing. It would be worthless. It's like there's no. It would lose power. You wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't talk about it. It wouldn't be an emphasis. You wouldn't be so self-centered. So going back to this idea, like think of it like religion, a religious belief. If we could get rid of that religion, if we could get rid of that religion, right? The religion of thin supremacy, the religion of you have to be thinner, otherwise God hates you and you're a piece of shit, scumbag, you're disgusting, right? If we got rid of that religion and it was irrelevant, like how would that feel?
Oh my God, like amazing. Anything would be possible.
Well, you would never have to think about it again.
Yeah, that would be really just like amazing.
Yeah, that's what recovery feels like.
Wow.
Now you can feel that, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what you've been chasing? You've been chasing that feeling right there. That's what you want.
I've been in it. I felt it.
Yeah, but it was always conditional. It was super conditional, and it required suffering for you to feel that for temporary moments. And then it wasn't even that big because you had to compare yourself to someone thinner than you. And if you weren't perfect, so you haven't really. It was not freedom. You had temporary fleeting moments of I've made it, and then you don't, and then you do, and then you don't. It's not permanent.
No, but I mean, I felt the freedom of it without even losing weight. I felt the freedom just by being in the moment with my animals and my working in the yard, like different things that keep my mind off my own shit.
Yeah, but let's compare it to, now let's be truthful now. Go back to if we could permanently erase thin supremacy from irrelevance. It's irrelevant. Thinness, fatness, anything in between does not make any difference. It is non-existent. It's kind of like your eye color. Why does that fucking matter? Right? It becomes that neutral. How would that feel?
Like, oh, 5,000 pound weight was lifted out of my chest.
Yeah, that's fucking different than hanging out with the animals. Okay, so don't compare the two. You've never felt that before. I'm calling bullshit right now. You're lying. That's not true. You've never felt that type of freedom. You've had fleeting moments where you're distracted. That's not the same. Don't even try to make those an equivalent. You've never felt the freedom that you're feeling just thinking about that concept. Just thinking about it. You've never felt that good. Let's try it again. Imagine if we completely removed thin supremacy from your life, how you would feel. Forever, permanently, it's removed. Never again will you have to care about the size and shape of your body.
I would probably get back about 5 hours in my day.
Okay.
Honestly, it would be amazing, and time is like so valuable to me. That would be like a huge thing that wouldn't even like be in my mind.
It would be like winning the lifetime lottery of ease, like relaxation forever. Like your mind would all of a sudden have access to living again, to being open and creative. Like think of how much time and space opens up to you, to your life. How does that feel?
This didn't happen when I was 11. That started when I was 3.
That's irrelevant because it's currently being applied. So you're currently applying it. So that's really all that matters. So keep in mind that if you could make body image completely irrelevant, what that would do to your life.
It feels like sparkles inside.
So you are imagining it, and you actually do have a sense of it. You can feel it just by thinking about it. Keep on thinking about it. Isn't that what you want?
Oh my God, it feels it's like that. You know when that feeling when you go over a bump in a car, and that you get that little like feeling in the pit of your belly, but like whoa, you got a little bit of air. That's what it feels like.
So let's keep on thinking about it. What would happen if you literally blacked out and removed the concept you have to be thinner or fatter from your life forever? How would that feel?
I would just be so happy.
Liberated.
I would love life.
It would be like coming out of jail, like you've been held hostage, like you've been in a dark room. Like a tiny space too. You've been in a tiny little space of existence.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
if you let your body be whatever it is, isn't that the exit? There's an exit right there. There's a door. It just opened up. Like, oh, I can go back to like being a real human being. Like I can go back to the authentic me that's been there this whole time, that I've been shutting down, blacking out. That's been, I can't because of this. I can't because of that. Like all of a sudden you can, and you can do it right now.
Wow.
Let's go back. You never again have to care about your body image. It's irrelevant. Even if you're thinner, it is not important. It doesn't make an impact. You're not going to put it on a fucking resume. It's over. It's not special. It doesn't define you. It doesn't do anything. It's just a number. It's like getting my nails done or not getting my nails done. Did I straighten my hair? Is my hair curly? Do I put makeup on or do I not wear makeup? It becomes irrelevant. to the foundation of who you are. How would that feel?
Just completely like blissful freedom.
Bliss is correct. You're right. It is almost like being reborn.
Yeah.
Same person. It's not like you're born a different person. It's like I'm getting a second chance. Because would you choose body image if you knew what you know now? If you got another chance, would you say, I have to be thin in my next life? No shit, right? Has it really been beneficial for you? Really? It's when you think about it in comparison to what it would be like to not have to have it. So let's imagine we're gonna impose. Hold on, you have to be thinner. How's that feel?
Awful. Like, yeah.
Nope. You have to stay in this church. You have to stay in this cult. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to have a job. You're not allowed to exist unless you are 25 pounds thinner, and you have to stay that way forever. How does that feel?
Really confining.
Keep on describing it. How does it feel to go back into that religious concept, that cult, the culture of that, and to hold yourself to it? How does that feel?
Infuriated, actually. Really infuriated.
So let's go back to you never again have to care about your body image. It's not who you are. It's not how you're valuing yourself as a human being. You're free. You get to define who you are based on your actual human inherent qualities, right? It's just your humanness. Body image is meaningless, really. As long as your body that you're attached to is providing consciousness and access to thoughts or just existing or witnessing the life you're in, what do you need? I mean, there's infinite possibilities for you in a lifetime. Right? If you get rid of the whole idea that you have to be thinner permanently and forever, and it's irrelevant if you are thinner or you're not thinner, it's meaningless. How does that feel?
Really excited because there's like so many things that I don't let myself do.
Yeah, you'd immediately start living your life again.
Yeah.
Immediately. And how would you feel about your weight? Right now, as it is. Is it really that catastrophic?
Actually, it's not that bad.
No shit. I mean, you see, it's like warped. It's twisted. Like you've been made to think that the body you're in is disgusting. That's the word you used.
Yeah.
Is it really disgusting? Like it's worthy of shame and embarrassment, as if it's done something horribly wrong. Soak that in for a second. Is your body really worthy of that much disgust? I mean, think about what that emotion is. The stigma, like you are horrible. Ugh. Piece of shit. I mean, really, is the body you're in that disgusting? And is it really, should any human being feel that ashamed and that disgusted by themselves based on that idea? Completely defining your sense of value as a human being, right? Think about the belief system that you're holding yourself to where you're literally feeling disgusted by yourself right now. I mean, the way I think about it is, are you torturing animals for fun? I mean, that's disgusting. Do you intentionally torture children and kill them and bury them, or light people on fire and watch them suffer to death? Are you doing that?
Of course, I
okay, that's disgusting. Okay, let's like get real around what's worthy of disgust. Okay?
Yeah.
Except for in your cult, having body fat is disgusting.
Wow, that's so like
disgusting.
Pathetic.
Remember when I said narcissism to the 10th degree? You have to be so superior that something as dumb as having body fat, like foot binding in China. Like, they used to shame girls that had 4-inch and 5-inch feet. Even if they did all the wrapping and they're completely disfigured now because they couldn't get it to 3 inches, they were disgusted.
Wow.
You believe in that type of shitty. You believe in that type of system. You are holding yourself to that type of fucked upness. Trust me, in a century from now, they're going to look back at our generation and go, I don't know how those girls didn't have mental illness. I'm not. It's like, of course there's going to be eating disorders rampant. That they're going to talk about the generations before held their daughters to be emaciated, to starve themselves, to prove that they were worth anything. So your whole life gets distracted, trying to prove you're worth something, trying to starve yourself, wondering why you're overeating on the side and pissed off that you can't maintain your thinness. Who's the problem here? Is it your husband?
How do you fix that? How do you fix
Just answer my question. Who's the problem here? Who's the problem here?
Obviously me. Obviously me and my thinking, which I always thought I was the problem.
Well, I want you to really think about it, because is it you? Is it really your dogma? Is it you? Are you the one that created this idea of thin supremacy? Are you the creator of it? Are you the one that's okay? So where is the shame and disgust coming from?
Standards I hold myself up to in relation to the society.
You got it. That you want to be included in. It's specific to the society you're wanting to be accepted into.
Yeah.
So that's a choice, right? You could say, well, and that's a good thing. You have a choice. You just want to be part of the cool club. And to be part of the cool club specific that you want to be in, they believe in thinner supremacy. The thinner you are, the more superior you are. Just like foot binding. Right? So I'm going to go back to what would happen to your life, to your psychological well-being, to your whole emotional, your spiritual, your physical, everything, if we removed that cult from your life forever. You never again have to
even imagine.
Well, you can. We've been talking about it. You've been imagining it. So go there. How would it feel to completely remove from your life this culture, religious concept of thin supremacy?
I would actually probably end up liking myself.
Oh, instantly. Well, because you would reframe like what your worth is. You decide, what is your worth? Are you a worthy individual? Are you a good person? If you can, if you can remove that, all of a sudden, how would you feel about yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I totally am worthy and able and totally talented.
And how would you feel?
In the things I do, and I feel fantastic.
It would be
like I would feel like if I'm at 10 right now, that would be like that 120.
Right? Because don't you agree too that it's based on what's natural? Like, these are natural, this is the way you are. So it doesn't require work. It doesn't require effort. It doesn't require I have to fix anything. You don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
So where is the issue that you're suffering from? Is it your weight? Is that what's making you suffer?
No.
What is it?
Some fucked up program that I bought into.
You're holding yourself to it.
Running.
Yeah, you're holding yourself to it. That system is there. I was raised in it. You were raised in it. It does exist. No doubt about it. It's pretty small. It's pretty fucked up. There's no intelligence based in it. It's all based on some weird narcissism. This kind of, more narcissistic, which is kind of more of an obsession with being unique and special and superior and being elite, being above others. It's kind of this weird concept of like you're holding yourself to such high, inhumane standards and then pretending like it's real and natural, right? When in fact, it's really messed up when you take a step back and look at it. Like, that's messed up. You can't just be a real human being. You're forced to have mental illness to be included. So again, everybody holding themselves to it. Are they really elite? Are they really magical? Are they really happy? Are they really free? Any human being, not just you. We're talking every single 100% of everybody who holds themselves to that belief system. Is it possible for them to be free?
Wow.
What's the answer? Is it possible for any human being who believes in that cult concept to have the freedom that you're experiencing when we remove it?
No.
It's impossible.
Definitely not.
Why? Why is that?
Because it has nothing to do with what is going on inside your heart and soul.
It's like there's no freedom because you are forced to focus on the concept. You don't have freedom. You have the concept. So you're basically a sheeple. They'll tell you when you're thin, and that's your fantasy. When I'm thin, I'll have more success. I'll be all this. And yeah, you're going to be more accepted in that space, but are you free?
No.
Because you have to focus on those things. You have to maintain them. You have to keep them up. You have to promote them. You have to promote them on your resume. It becomes defining. So what happens to your freedom in life that you're actually just fantasizing you'll get? You're fantasizing that when I'm thinner, I'll have that freedom. But guess what?
No, because then you have less freedom because you have to maintain it.
Correct. And it's so defining that all you get to think about, you cannot leave the cage. You can't leave. Have you ever heard of do you know what a monkey trap is?
No.
So to trap monkeys, they have a cage and it's got a handhole, right? And they put fruit in the cage, and the monkey goes, "Oh my God, I want some fruit." It puts its hand in the cage, grabs the fruit, but it makes its fist bigger, so it can't.
Right. And then you can't get out because he won't put the food down.
Yeah, basically brainwashing like this. It's not just thin supremacy; it's also anything else that says you have to meet these conditions to be free. So you meet the condition and you have to keep the condition. You don't really get to the sustenance. You're holding the condition, but there is no freedom because you have to look at the condition, think about the condition, maintain your condition, defend the condition. So you get no freedom. You're stuck in the monkey trap. So in order for you to be free, what do you have to let go of? Those conditions. The condition. You have to say, I don't want the sustenance that there's the illusion of it. It's a mirage. You don't get freedom. So the freedom you're chasing doesn't exist with conditions. Again, if we remove the conditions, you're left with your true, authentic, original self that you were born with. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get worse. These are original qualities that are a part of you as a human being. They're human qualities. You're not the only one that's a nice person that works hard. Those are human qualities. You can't even claim better than anybody else's. They just are, right? Yeah. So if you can't have that sustenance anymore and you let it go, what does that feel like?
It really is like the 80% of my life that I keep replaying and circulating on, and I gotta do this, and I gotta work out.
And the funny thing is,
it's all gone.
It would be completely gone.
Energy.
Oh yeah, well you would have your soul back. You would be like the contract with the devil. you ended because it's a choice, because you can choose it at any point, and now you've got your soul back. It's like, I'm real, I'm alive. It's like saying I'm living, it's alive, I'm live now. I'm not on pause, holding myself to some structure or some concept before I can live again, which you'll never live again because you're holding on to the concept that becomes your life. So the true you never really gets to come back.
It's like when Pinocchio lost his string and he's so happy to be a real boy.
That is exactly what this is. Do you want to be a real person, or do you need the strings to tell you what to do?
No, I want to be real and just...
You hung up.
Hello?
Hi there. I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. So there's freedom, right? To say, I don't have to hold myself to that. That's cruel. If you keep on holding yourself to it, what's going to change? Nothing.
Nothing at all.
No.
Because it hasn't yet.
No. And even if you were 25 pounds less, let's just go there.
Well, if I got there through this way, it would come back.
Well, even if you get there, snap your fingers, 25 pounds less, how is it going to feel? You might have a temporary sense that I've made it, I have access to maybe getting more jobs, but are you really free? It actually gets worse. If you lost 25 pounds, you know how much worse your situation would be? You'd have to keep it. Don't forget, now you become paranoid and defensive.
Yeah.
You might have a fleeting moment of, I feel so good about my body image. You don't really feel good about you. But now you have to keep it, so it becomes highly pressurized.
Yeah.
So what happens to the emphasis on food? Gets bigger. So do you want to keep on obsessing about food? Because that's what you're going to get.
No.
So
I'm so sick of, I'm just, it's interesting too, because I'm not like a crazy eater, but.
Crazy dieter.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think the dismantling of all this shit talk in my head will allow me to do what I naturally do, which is actually really just healthy. Like the things I crave are awesome.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be just that. It would. So pause a second. Hold on. That thought right there is pretty dysfunctional. When you think about what you just said, where is that coming from? Would you think that way if you were completely removed from thin supremacy for the rest of your life? The thought of that shit food, where does that come from? That cult, right?
No, it comes from like actually feeling sick when you eat.
Well, you mean when you're overeating and you're not listening to your body? Yes, but that's not the food's problem. No, really think about what I'm telling you.
They're just as good as asparagus. Like,
say that again.
I can feel the difference in my body.
Well, I get that, especially when you have this religious ideology, because the brainwashing around food is so intense that when you eat food you demonize as bad, you're actually inflamed in fear of the food, feeling bad about it, more so than the actual food. It's like being in a room with a bear, eating that food. So yeah, your body is going to respond explosively, more so than someone who doesn't believe in that dogma. Never even thought about how that thin supremacy has impacted your body in relation to food. So you need to open your mind, get out of the brainwashing. Can you afford to even think like that if you want freedom? Seriously, the only reason you have shame around what you call shit food is because of your thin supremacy.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe you're even questioning that. Tell yourself the truth. Get rid of thin supremacy permanently and forever. Would you feel bad about food? Would you feel so religiously moral? Would you take the moral high ground around your I'm so healthy? Would you do that? So you have there's a little orthorexia in your conversation, which is this supremacy and health righteousness. It's this concept that food that is healthier is superior versus shit food, right? So that's very moralistic versus this is all just chemistry. And no one deserves to feel bad about themselves for eating a French fry.
Yeah, well, I don't care what other people do.
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Should anybody feel bad about eating a French fry? Or feel that they've done something wrong, or feel disgusted, or to even shame themselves, or even demonize it as shit food? Just think about that for a second. So you have layers of problems that you need to surrender. So let that go too. You know, would you get the same euphoria of I'm special and clean in your controlled religious food dogma? A lot of the euphoria you're experiencing is the illusion that you think it's healthy. Do you realize that kale is toxic?
Kale?
Yeah.
Yeah, in quantity.
You got it. So you never thought that that's shit food. Why didn't you think kale was shit food? That's toxic. Asparagus? Toxic.
Asparagus?
Yeah, you don't see that as toxic?
No.
Yeah, if you eat too much, you can have some problems.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, but that's shit food. Oh my God, shit food. It's toxic. Never can you hear how like you're not willing to take the same open-mindedness towards French fries.
Oh yeah.
But you're not.
But it would be like
You're not. You pause. You need to just listen to me. You're not. When you eat what you call shit food, how do you feel about it? No matter what the quantity. Don't lie.
I feel gross.
Yeah. So you need to tell yourself the truth. You're not approaching it the same way. Well, you're not. You're distorted. You're completely. That's because the diet industry is distorted. It's like you're just spewing out diet industry shit. Because they don't quantify anything. They don't say it's quantity.
I worked with a nutritionist.
Yeah, and they never talk to you about quantity. And have you ever considered that 80% of nutritionists are orthorexic and anorexic? Did you know that? They have an obsessive... Yes! Oh my God. Yeah, so take the whole nutrition thing, take her off a pedestal. Chances are she has an eating disorder or has recovered from one. Or she's not fully recovered. She's still trying to obsess over nutrition. Never really considering that your whole concept of healthiness is narcissistic. You're not going to recover if you hold on to that either. Because what happens when you eat something demonized as bad? How do you feel about yourself? Yeah, you got it. And you're blaming the food for how bad you feel? You're not looking at the actual brainwashing and fear-mongering of the food as bad for you, as inflammatory? You're inflamed before you even eat it. You have high blood sugar just from the thought that that's bad food. Your sugar is going to rise.
Really?
Yeah, this is not new science.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, you never question your own bullshit that you took from someone else because of thin supremacy. You never saw it. So the whole concept, and you didn't see it when you wrote your email either. I take great pride and joy in my health. That is like holy pride, narcissism, Batman. Of course you're going to feel better. You're getting off on it. It's a psychological get off. Now, I'm not saying that you should abandon fruits, vegetables, and diversity in food, but if you let go of that religious dogma around nutrition health, I guarantee you're not going to feel so shitty and you won't have shame about eating like a normal human being. You know, pleasure is a very important aspect of health. Why aren't you talking about that? I mean, asparagus makes your pee smell like weird. You want to keep on eating more and more because you think it's healthy? What if it doesn't appeal? When you force feeding shit that doesn't taste good, it doesn't even absorb. Did you know that if the food isn't pleasurable, it doesn't digest the same?
Wow, I didn't know that either.
I know. There's so much shit that the industry you're paying for isn't telling you. Because why would they? It doesn't support their religion. Anyways, if you really want to recover, you're going to have to question the kind of morality, the moral approach to food. I mean, how has fearing food helped you? Can you see maybe that's been really kind of underlying your overeating issue? Like if you didn't have this sense of I fucked it up and I failed, I'm a piece of shit because I ate something shitty, if you didn't personally feel bad about it, would you be overeating it or even gravitating to it?
I don't know.
Well, think a little harder.
It's so funny. Like you totally found the core of something because I am I feel like I've got a thousand thoughts racing and I can't really attach to any single one. It's really kind of throwing a monkey wrench into my software.
That's awesome. Well, you paid me to do this. I mean, you knew it was coming.
I was like, I need you to stir up my shit. Oh my god, I didn't realize.
No, you've never questioned that. The thing is that I know for a fact that nutritionist didn't mean harm, but do they really know what they're talking about when it comes to how you psychologically, how it impacts you psychologically? Food is the foundation of life. You will die if you do not eat, right? So we are wired to have very intricate psychological kind of mechanisms in place around how we perceive food. If in any way food is threatening to you, what do you think your brain does? You're going to die. Yeah. Your whole body goes into fight or flight.
Well, can I tell you something really fascinating? Because I've listened to dozens and dozens. I mean, I've been binging, pardon the pun, on your videos the last couple of weeks. And it's so fascinating to me, the things that I find that trigger a response, and I've been trying to apply some of the concepts we've been talking to other people about. So yesterday, I just wanted to see what was my hunger telling me it wanted, and there was this amazing bag of chips that I haven't allowed myself to have any chips. No chips, no. And it was this perfect bag that came with sandwiches that I got for the kids, and they didn't want them. And they're the dirty kind with they're all crinkly but they're thick. And I was like, you know what?
Yummy.
I could really get into that with a big glass of grapefruit seltzer. That would be so good. And I was like, I'm gonna sit down at the table and I'm gonna savor each one and enjoy it so much.
Did you have any shame or guilt? Did you have any? This is bad for me. What am I doing? Did you have any of that?
Nothing.
Awesome.
I enjoyed it, and afterward I felt great. And I even was well, am I hungry now? And I noticed I was less hungry for hours after I actually had what I really wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I controlled it and said, oh, I'm just gonna have the 3 carrots instead or something.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm so glad that you actually have that experience to draw from. When you're safe with food and there's nothing to be afraid of, and you can actually, listen to the body and its needs. You probably needed the salt. There were certain things in the food that it was actually coming from the brain saying, here are certain foods that were lacking. It stimulates the pleasure center of the brain associated with that food. You allowed it to happen. Now imagine you're on a diet and that's bad and you can't have that. How that would have turned out.
Awful.
Yeah, so let's just think about, okay, so pause for a second. Really consider the impact of shaming food and how that impacts people's decisions and how it affects their body and their eating behavior. So is it really healthy to suggest chips are bad?
No, not after yesterday.
Well, open your mind. Yeah. Like, what the heck? No one should have to be in fight or flight around food. And if they are, especially if the food tastes good and it's prevalent around them, it is actually promoting emotional eating and binge eating behavior. Not the food, the shaming of it. Because you're promoting people to restrict, to remove this food. And there's so many studies around just the fact that you're saying you can't eat that. The person thinks about it because they have to know where it is, that they can't eat it. They have to be conscious. And that in and of itself increases cravings for that food. So just by telling someone that's bad, you can't eat it, makes it more aware in their mind and they have more cravings of it. And then you're going to say they're addicted, never questioning this idea that you can't eat that is actually promoting the impulses to eat it. Not the food. Wow. I mean, there's so much more. I could keep on going around the impact. So when you say to me, I'm eating shit food, you can hear I'm going, oh, someone's got a little special narcissistic idea around nutrition, health. That's also why you suffer. So keep in mind this whole concept of body image, that is the only reason you're imposing these kind of religious beliefs around food. They're really based on this idea that you have to be thinner anyways. And if it's not about being thinner, it's this idea you have to have some type of healthy body. What the fuck is that? Who decides what's healthy? That nutritionist? Is she the queen of nutrition, health? Like, what makes the body healthy? I mean, think of all the complexity of a human body. And to say that you have to eat nutritionally sound to be healthy, that's a sign that the body is inherently flawed. I don't know how it survived millennia eating dirt and crap because of starvation. Right? Let me tell you a little story on a side note. So my mother had brain cancer and she used to make everything homemade. We had a garden, we used a can and it was always fresh and she used cream and butter. She never dieted a day in her life, ever. Never supported it, was never willing to give up pleasurable food, but she ate very whole. She was just, she loved natural food and she baked and cooked and did everything. Anyways, she got brain cancer and the brain surgery was kind of like in the frontal cortex. So she basically had a lobotomy and coming out of it, she couldn't cook. She couldn't process, the steps. She still wanted to do it, but she couldn't process any of it. And because of the chemo and radiation, her palate changed. Nothing tasted good to her anymore. So all she liked was McDonald's. She loved it, and Subway. So she lived for 5 years with brain cancer, a glioblastoma. She lived way longer than they anticipated. They thought she'd die after 18 months. This is the same cancer that, oh my God, a guy, the senator from Arizona had, who just died. He was a Vietnam vet, prisoner of war. He had it, died very quick. Say it again? Yeah, McCain. Same thing. Yeah. She ended up living 5 years eating McDonald's and Subway.
Wow. That's insane. That's like completely not something you'd imagine.
And not only that, but her body kept her alive with a growing cancer in her brain. That was amazing. It was amazing to watch. and how her body, as she was actively dying, how her body adapted to the brain exploding in her, the tumor basically exploding in her brain, how it pushed her eye out and how it accommodated to make sure her brain was still functioning. I mean, it was nuts until the minute she died. Her body was healthy.
Wow.
And she didn't die of unhealth. She died of a brain cancer pressing against the nerves that stopped her heart and her breathing.
Wow.
So who defines what health is? You tell me. Who gets to decide what health is? The diet industry? Some nutritionist who has some obsessive compulsive issues with her body image?
Well, it was actually a dude and he was chubby.
Well, and he's making money and whatever it is. It doesn't matter what gender, really. And I'm not discounting the benefits of nutrition. I'm not. I'm discounting the radicalism behind it and the idea that that's what makes a person healthy. It's like one tiny sliver, right? The human body over thousands of years has gone in and out of having abundance with food and not. I mean, how did people from Ireland live off potatoes for so long? In poverty. Well, clearly the body can handle potatoes.
Yeah.
And some nutritionist listening to this going, oh my God, those are too many carbs, they're highly inflammatory, and the only thing good about it is the skin, but it makes your blood sugar rise, not thinking that the fear of the potato is actually more detrimental to your overall inflammation, or it's the impact versus the actual potato. Anyways, have we shredded that now?
Yeah. I think I'm spinning enough. Wow.
So what is your goal here? Do you want to get freedom? Do you want freedom or do you want to be thin and healthy? What do you want? And you need to recognize what you get, right? What do you get if you choose, I need to be thin and healthy? What is it that you actually, what's the payoff? Is it really as explosive and expansive as you think? Or is it more darkness? You have to really open up to see the truth of it all. There's some fantasy, but there is a reality. You have to really be conscious of what's the reality. If you want to be thinner, and that's your focus, do you really get the freedom you're seeking?
Not really, no.
You might be temporary. It gives you some sense of I'm doing something, right? It's like but it also protects you from having to face the shame underneath all this that you don't want to face. Yeah. Right? But if you were to remove thin supremacy and health righteousness, if you want to call it that, from your life, would you be ashamed? So the shame you're avoiding is actually stemming from the goal you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
To escape the shame. So do you see how it's a monkey trap? You can't get out. Yeah. The shame you're trying to repress is actually stemming from the belief that you have to be thinner to be better. You wouldn't have the shame if you didn't have that belief. So,
without that shame, that would affect a lot of other things.
You got it. So, is the solution to go towards thinnerness? Is that going to get rid of the shame?
No, it's still going towards
it feeds it.
Mental
Yeah,
health.
it feeds it. It literally feeds the shame, especially if you can't sustain adequate starvation. At 47 years old, you're not 20. It's harder. So you're held to a higher standard of perfection just to get the same result. So you get more mental illness than the 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And then you're going to blame your husband for it. If only he was going to take care of himself, damn it. Of course, that's another issue. But even if he was not an issue, this is your problem you're dealing with. This isn't a problem with your husband. This is a problem with you. What makes you think you can handle this issue with your husband? That's real. I don't want to diminish that. But what makes you think you can handle that if you're underneath all this carrying shame about some fucked up body image?
And I gotta tell you something that isn't.
Are you there? You're breaking up. I can't hear you.